Good morning, everyone. How many of you have dealt with addiction? There are lots of addictions people could have. It could be to a substance, a person, a feeling. Addiction comes in many forms. And generally, when we run to addictions, it's because we are in pain of some sort, either physical, emotional, spiritual, or all of the above. I wish I could say that I have never dealt with addiction. I really wish I could say that, but that would make me a liar. See, and I like to be transparent with myself and then with others so that hopefully maybe, some of my words might resonate within them and maybe you won't feel quite so alone or know that there are options. I don't know. Brief video on this part. So I used to have an addiction to pain pills. Back in the day, I had to have surgery on my knee. I tore my ACL. Funny story on how that happened. Not funny what followed. The funny story was how I broke my leg. Or tore my ACL. It wasn't a break. The ligaments were just gone. Anyway, I ended up having to have surgery. I had to learn how to pretty much re-walk. Doctors had told me I would walk with a limp for the rest of my life. I said no, I wouldn't. They said yes, I would. I said, oh, hell no, I won't. Because at the time, I was still kind of vain. I was posing in magazines and stuff and doing other stuff, and I was not going to be stuck with a limp and a fucked up leg. It just wasn't an option for me. I was like, no, I can't do that. So I did a lot of physical therapy and a lot of work, which was great. But what I didn't realize was that while I was thinking I was okay and that I could do this, I was taking pain pills that were prescribed by the doctors. And you know how the process goes. So with addiction, it starts out small and then gets bigger and bigger. So I was on these pain pills because of my knee, which then after the knee surgery, we also had found out, not after, it was actually before that. I take it back. Before that was when I had been diagnosed with the rare terminal illness. So they were already giving me pain pills, but at first I was not taking them. I had them in my pantry for over a year before I even took the first one. I really didn't like pain pills. I didn't like, so at the time, at first. But then the more I started taking them, I noticed I was able to get more done. I was able to work my leg. I got rid of my limp. Yeah, because I was dulling the pain with the fucking pain meds and not realizing. Anyway. So I then have another surgery very shortly after the knee surgery. I had my gastric bypass, my NRU-NY. And when I had that done, I was again put on pain medications. So I went through 2.5 years, I'd say, of having to do different surgeries. I actually had 3 procedures in about 2 years. So the pain pills became a way of life because it was necessary at the time because of the procedures. But then I got used to them. And then when the doctors told me I had an illness that I wasn't going to get rid of, that there was no cure for, and I was in pain, they prescribed me even more. So you could see how the process goes. And in my case, my doctors were the ones giving me these pills. Had I known back then what I know now, I would have never done it. Interesting that my doctor, the one who was prescribing all the pills, got busted. Lost her license, got in a lot of trouble. I heard about it like I don't know, 10 years later? Nah, that's an exaggeration. Maybe 7 years later. I had heard that she had no longer worked at these facilities because she had been prescribing people as if she were a pain clinic when she was a primary care doctor. I was real naive at the time. I was young. I didn't know how this stuff worked. I had never taken pain pills before that. I wasn't taking any other things. I had smoked weed when I was a young teen, but had stopped at that point. I hadn't smoked for years. Then I started after. Now, as you know, I smoke weed. Unfortunately, what happens is people often use crutches to get through moods they don't know how to deal with, pain they don't know how to deal with, feelings they don't know how to deal with, and they end up faster than you could even think addicted through trying to overcompensate in some way, shape, or form. My addiction went on for many, 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 many years. And unfortunately, there were family members, mother, who didn't help take away the addiction. Instead, they would feed the addiction. So, by the time I realized how bad my addiction was, I was in shock. I was like, how did I let this spiral to this point? Right? And then when my doctor had told me my illness that I had, I wasn't going to die from it. More than likely, I would not. There was only a 25% chance that it would turn into the type that's terminal. And then we would deal with it, of course, if it got to that point, but I was not there. So once I found out, there's still life in me, I didn't want to be on these medications anymore because, originally I had taken them for the knee surgery, for my gastric bypass, and then I had scleroderma and these autoimmune disorders. I was in a lot of pain. There was no cure for that one. Eventually, I got tired of it. You get tired of it at some point, hopefully, when you wake up. And I ended up happy, of course, that my doctors said the illness I had wouldn't kill me. But by this time, of course, I'm addicted to these medicines. And I'm like, well, fuck, what do I do to get off of them? And that took years. That was a process that took years. Lots of seizures, lots of really bad things. Because as you guys know, getting off of any type of substance could be a very challenging thing. A lot of people never get clean because they can't take the physical pain of sobriety coming their way, because it is a process on your body that really takes a toll, not to mention the spiritual side and mental side. Especially for me, because I found when I was taking pills, I felt happier and better during that moment. That false, fake euphoria. But then you don't know how to live in the real world and the real emotions when you're always covering up your emotions with an external factor, like a drug, a food, an activity, or whatever. So I know a thing or two about addiction, and I can say that getting clean, although hard, I am super happy to have done it. You guys can too. Those of you who are out there struggling in your addictions, man, there is a way out. It's just you have to, bless you, you have to want it yourself. Nobody can do it for you. The doctors can help you, people can help you, they can give you support, but ultimately you got to put in the work. Your body, your mind, your decision, your choice. How bad do you want to live outside of that addiction? Now, it's hard if you don't know how to process your emotions to even want to get to a point of wanting to be sober, because oftentimes will run to drugs and stuff to escape emotions and feelings that we just don't have the tools or don't feel equipped emotionally to deal with. And when things sometimes get out of hand and you don't know how to deal with things, sometimes people might reach for a cigarette, reach for a drug, reach for a person. And I am glad that it didn't destroy my life. It almost did. One of the major things that I've always had a problem with my whole life is depression. Massive, massive depression. And when I would take the pills at first, it used to help with the depression. So I thought. But really what it was doing is simply masking it and giving me a false, drugged feeling of euphoria that was not reality. I've been clean off of pills for a few years. I think it's been 2.5 or so. I'd have to ask. I don't know. I don't keep track anymore. But I wish there was more support groups and resources available for people trying to get their lives right. You know, the whole person needs care, not just one part of you, your entire being. Your soul, your body, your mind, everything. Because if you don't heal, you're going to go right back into that addiction. If you don't have the proper coping tools and you don't know how to get through a situation, people often return to old habits. They go to what they know, and that's not always the best way to go, as we, obviously can see when it comes to certain cycles. So, here's me now. The only thing I do is smoke weed. And I'm slowing down with that too. Because I don't mind being high and having a bit of a relaxed feeling, but I do mind being out of my mind. I like to smoke enough to where I could relax and focus, but not enough to where I can't think and I'm foggy. It also helps with my health stuff and my seizures, which is great, but I don't want to replace one crutch with another, so I'm slowly cutting back. Now, one thing that helped me, a couple things that helped me immensely when I was, when I was going through withdrawals. One of the things that helped me a shit ton was Kratom. I used to use a lot of red leaf Kratom. If you're familiar with Kratom, or if you're not, I don't know who's familiar with it and who's not. You could take it as a tea, you could take it in a pill form, you could do what's called a toss and wash, where you basically, it's a powder and you mix it with a little bit of orange juice or liquid and you toss it back. So that is something that's natural. It's a leaf that helps with the withdrawal process, as well as many other benefits for other things. But what it does is it binds with the same mu receptor in the brain as an opioid would. So it kind of gives you the same stimulant, a feeling, but not exactly, but it helps with the withdrawals. And I used to take a lot of over-the-counter RLS medicine because that helped. Because when you're going through withdrawals, restless leg syndrome and your back and the spasms and the twitching, it could be unbearable. Not to mention the bathroom issues and everything. Anyway, there's so many things with that. Anyways, point being, Kratom works well. It's natural. I liked it. RLS, over-the-counter medicine, helped because it would take away the spasms and stuff. So now, that I have walked this silly journey that I have and have made a bunch of silly mistakes, and am now, a different person, have changed my life around. I'm just kind of trying to share a little bit. I didn't plan out what I was going to say. I honestly didn't know what I was going to talk about when I turned on the fucking camera. Maybe I should start taking notes and writing stuff out and just talking on stuff. But generally, I just come off the top of my head with what's on my mind. And right now, that's what's on my mind. Our sobriety.